The strongest culture comes from the highest pressure moments. And for the Thunder, the barometer almost burst. A win to remember that could add extra voltage to their title charge. We'll dig into that with our expert co-host Mike Hussey. Plus, who's firing with the bat and how do you stop them? And we'll also take a look at the run home to the finals. This is The Surge. Hello everybody, welcome to another edition of The Surge. I'm Adam White. Mike Hussey is my co-host again, and there's so much to talk about. Mike, welcome.
G'day Whitey, great to be here again.
Now, you asked for a close finish after last episode, and we got one, and it was the Mike Hussey Cup, the Scorchers and the Thunder, and went right down to the last ball. What a dramatic finish. There's so much to talk about from the game, but just from an overall point of view, it's almost like the competition needed that sort of finish.
Yeah, without doubt, I think the best game of the tournament so far. What a finish, going right down to the last ball. Not an easy place to go and win in Perth at the best of times, but the Thunder, they also had their issues as well. You know, horrible collision, losing a couple of players, so much drama. But Shafane Rutherford, under pressure, able to finish the job after not doing much for the Thunder at all so far in the tournament.
So when it's getting close and your two teams are in action, who are you barracking for?
I'm a Thunder fan, so I was hoping the Thunder win, but I do have a soft spot for the Scorchers as well, and I know Adam Voges really well, the coach, and a lot of the players. So it was a comfortable feeling just sitting there watching. But I just had a feeling about the Thunder. I mean, they were facing adversity on the night. It almost seemed to galvanise the team after that collision. I don't know, there was just little things that just seemed to be going their way at the right time. Ashton Turner, the ball getting caught in the lights. You don't see that very often. They've just been able to find a boundary whenever they possibly needed it. And then Shafane Rutherford, as I said, hadn't done anything really in the tournament. That was his night. It was his time to shine and could show the tournament what he could do. So, I don't know, I just had a feeling that the stars aligned for the Sydney Thunder, and a famous victory, probably one of the best in their history.
Absolutely. So we'll get to that very shortly and sort of drill down because, as you said, it was an incredibly dramatic night. But it's a bit of a different show today. We're going to have a look at some of the best 25 and under players in the competition. There's quite a few that are starting to announce themselves as not only stars of the BBL, but potentially high honours down the track as well, and maybe just some of the leading contending teams because, as we said last week, we're kind of getting to the second half of the season. But let's get straight into the power play. And as you said, the Thunder last night, a famous victory for so many ways to win in Perth. But after that dramatic collision between Daniel Sams and also Cameron Bancroft, two of their most important players that have obviously were out of the game the moment the collision took place, but potentially for the rest of the tournament. Yeah,
well, let's hope not. I believe the news was relatively good after the game, that they were okay, definitely suffering from concussion symptoms. But yeah, if you go back to the collision, it was sickening to watch initially. And two crucial players, because Sams was definitely going to be involved bowling at the death. I'm not sure how many overs there were still to go, but there weren't too many, and he's one of their noted death bowlers. So they lost out on that. Plus, then obviously they were going to be chasing a pretty decent total. Cameron Bancroft knows the conditions pretty well there at Optus Stadium. He would have been really important with the bat, and potentially Daniel Sams batting towards the back end as well. So to lose two of your key players would have been very, very difficult to cover. But as I said, it just seemed to like bring them tighter together. I saw Chris Green brought the team together and sort of spoke about, you know, that they're playing not just for each other, but they're also playing for two guys that are in hospital. And I've got the feeling that really sort of brought the team together. David Warner was brilliant. I think he was brilliant as a captain in the field from that side of things, but also with the bat. And he's really brought a lot of belief to that team. So the Thunder are certainly, they'll take so much confidence out of that. And I think they'll certainly have belief that they can go a lot further in this competition.
Yeah, but it was a magical night for not the right reasons in some respects, but just the fact, as you said, they were able to get the win under those circumstances. It was quite remarkable. David Warner spoke to Kath Lachlan on the Fox Cricket coverage last night. Let's have a listen because he was very emotional after the game.
I don't know where to begin, David Warner. How do you sum up that victory?
Oh, look, first and foremost, just making sure both our players are well and they're okay. That was obviously quite nasty, but we got the group together just after it happened, and we just said, look, you know, we've got to lift for the boys, and you know, we've got to leave that to the side at the moment, and then we'll get back to them after. But the way the boys fought there, you know, they were in our thoughts, and look, I think towards the back end there, it just means a lot to this group. I think coming over here, these guys here are such formidable force. They're fortress, and 46,000, credit to the crowd, absolutely amazing atmosphere. This is the first time I've played over here, so I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, it's home and away record for a Scorchers game, so it was incredible tonight. Take us back to that moment. How rattling was it, and how did you regroup and be able to bat like you did and just get the troops together and be able to pull off a victory like that?
Yeah, look, it was difficult. Seeing two players knocked out like that. But one of our opening batters and one of our best all-rounders. But look, it didn't look great. But to have that chat with the guys and just get your minds focused back on cricket, it's always a challenge. But look, I just like the way that the guys fought back. I think the Scorchers could have really got away with that. Got well over 200. We knew it was going to be a good batting surface. And if we had one batter that could sort of get to 80 and have someone else hang in there, you never know here at the Fortress. You can get 10 to 14 at the back end.
So there you go, Dave Warner with Kath Lachlan on Fox Cricket last night. So that's the players' perspective. Now, Trent Copeland has spoken recently, General Manager of the Thunder, about both players who remain in hospital.
Look, it's been a journey the last little while. From the moment the incident happened through to now, I think we've landed in a really good position with a lot of support and a lot of thorough medical checks at the hospital. Largely, players' good spirits, and in the last hour we've had sort of confirmation that CT scans have come back largely pretty clear. And obviously both players sustained a concussion injury, and that requires a 12-day, under the Cricket Australia protocols, 12-day stand-down period, make sure they progress, are monitored. The good news is that both players are going to be discharged from the hospital today. The good news is both boys are okay, they're in good hands, and hopefully we can keep playing some good cricket because we're right in the thick of winning this tournament.
We talk often about culture and how you create culture, how you create a new culture. This isn't a new team as such, but we are seeing a kind of new version of the Thunder with Warner involved heavily, Trent Copeland coming in as essentially the boss.
Yep.
It feels different. And when you get a result like this, it's something to really hang your hat on, something that is quite tangible.
Well, when you've got a player like David Warner, who's had such a decorated international career, come back and play for the Sydney Thunder in the Big Bash, and you can see how invested he is. Like, I don't know whether you saw his reaction after they hit those winning runs. He was jumping around like a 10-year-old kid in the lounge room, You can see him in the warm-up, how he just brings guys together. He's trying to make it relaxed and fun, but when they get out on the field, they're competitive, and there's no one more competitive than David Warner, and I think he's dragging a lot of other players along with his belief, with his attitude, with his character, saying this is the guy we want to follow. And when you've got a leader like that at the top, and then you've got a smart guy like Trent Copeland behind the scenes, just pulling the reins and making the right signings and things like that, then you've got a recipe for potentially a very successful environment. I mean, they have kept together a core group of very good players, but I think that leadership is crucial, and David Warner's doing a phenomenal job so far, and I can't see it stopping. Like his confidence as a leader and as a captain and even as a player, like sometimes it's difficult when you finish your international career to come back. You sort of think, have I still got it? But he'll still be, building his own confidence and with a win like that. And he can see that the boys are buying in behind him as well. I think it's very exciting for the Thunder and exciting for the competition.
It feels over time that the New South Wales-based teams and the Victorian-based teams at times have struggled to find that identity and that the passion for the team. I think it's different when it's a one-team state situation, whether it's the Strikers, the Scorchers, Hurricanes, Heat, when you are sort of playing for the state. But when there are these hybrid teams, for want of a better term, actually finding something to stand for, I think, has been a bit more difficult. Is that fair, particularly maybe for the Thunder and the Renegades as the poorer brother or the poorer cousin?
Well, we don't look at it like that, being a former Thunder player. But no, you're right, though. It is different. And there's definitely disadvantages. I know, say, from a Perth perspective, having all of your players there playing for Western Australia and then crossing over playing straight away for the Scorchers, you can start training up guys weeks, months in advance.
And it's not artificial what you're playing for.
Yeah, that's right. And then when you get a home ground advantage like Perth, where the conditions are quite unique, it's fast, it's bouncy, you get that home crowd, which is huge, which the players love playing in front of as well. You've already got some really good advantages at your disposal. You come to the Thunder and the Sixers, it's a splitting of resources to start with. I still think the Thunder have a pretty good identity, playing out there in the west of Sydney, representing the whole of the west of New South Wales there. There's a lot of multiculturalism out there. The players feel that, and you do feel like you're playing for them out there like that. So there is some sort of an identity there, but does take time to build. You do need some really good people in important positions, and I think having Copeland and Warner in the two key leading positions, throw Travis Bayliss in there as well, who's a calming influence. They've got a chance, I think, and they are building some sort of an identity there.
Do you think Davey brings an edge and intensity that is, it's not a point of difference compared to other teams, but it feels like he's playing for keeps, as you alluded to before. Yeah. And when that drags everyone else along, I don't know, it just feels that there's an edge to every Thunder game now.
Without doubt. And you throw Sam Billings in there as well. There's an intensity there. Every time they're on the park, you know as an opposition player that you're up against a team that they're going to be like a bulldog. They're just going to be chasing you the whole time.
And it's not hit and giggle.
No. They want to win. And David Warner's got so much experience as well. He's obviously played T20 cricket all around the world. He's played at the highest level. He'll know when to pull the right strings. We spoke about how important captaincy is last time on this show. So having his experience and knowledge plus his aura, I think think back to the game against the Melbourne Stars at Manuka when he basically talked Glenn Maxwell out. Now, no one really is going to have a crack at Glenn Maxwell. Yeah. David Warner had the confidence because he could see this is an opportunity to get inside one of the best player in the competition's head and a chance to win this game. That was a tactic he used. Not a lot of captains or players see that opportunity, and he grabbed it.
How did you find, you talked about it before, about Davey finishing his international career and then continuing on domestically and keeping that same fire burning inside. What was it like for you in that situation?
Well, I think that's why it was so important that the Thunder made David Warner captain. I know Chris Green had done it, and he'd done a pretty good job, to be fair, over the last few years. But when you've retired from international cricket and you've been to the highest level, and then you come back to play in the Big Bash, you almost like need something extra to be really up for it and really fully invested. And I get the feeling, same thing with David Warner. They could have easily said, Davey, you've been great for Australia. Just come back and enjoy your cricket, have a bit of fun, and just play. He's been doing that for the last 20 years of his life. He needs that extra little bit of carrot. He needs to be leading this team and driving the standards from the top to really make a difference. And that'll drive him on as well. And I felt that certainly with the Thunder as well. I was at the Scorchers and Justin Langer said, mate, just play, have fun. We've got a great team here. And I could have done that and could have enjoyed that. But the opportunity to go to a place like the Sydney Thunder, which was really struggling at the time, and really have a meaningful contribution in helping build it back up was something that was so motivating and got me so invested.
Did you learn a lot about yourself, even though you'd had that long international career and long domestic career before you'd even played for the Thunder, that you didn't know about yourself?
Yeah, and that's why I look back at it now as one of the best decisions. It was one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make, leaving Perth, because I love Perth and I love Western Australia, but it was one of the best decisions. For that exact reason, I learned so much about myself. I learned so much about how to help, play a small part in building a cricket team, building for success. I've had a long career in cricket, and I've had a lot of good experiences with World Cups and Ashes and things like that. But I'll still say that my Thunder experience is one of the best experiences in my whole career.
Right. So would have you got into coaching as you had if you hadn't had that Thunder experience, do you think?
Well, good question. Probably. But I certainly, the lessons I've learnt from the Thunder experiences, from basically going from below ground zero and helping sort of build it up to what hopefully was a respectable sort of team, and environment as well, where we wanted to attract people. It wasn't just on-field stuff, it was off-field stuff as well. The lessons you learn there are incredible and certainly have held me in good stead for coaching post my career, yeah.
All right, let's get on to the second power play. It was a long one, but we'll get on to the second one. And the Big Bash hitters are starting to fire now. We've talked about Davey Warner, but certainly Chris Lynn lit it up the other night at under the roof. Well, in fact, it wasn't under the roof at Marvel Stadium, but even Josh Brown got going as well. Sometimes does it take a while to warm into a season? Is that why we're starting to see it now?
Yeah, throw Finn Allen into that equation as well after getting no runs really to start with. I mean, we know they're all really good players and they're going to fire at some stage. So this is where expert sort of leadership, coaching, captaincy needs to come into play, where just got to keep the players relaxed, keep trusting them. Don't worry, mate, you'll come good. We're backing you in. And I thought the strikers in particular the other night against the Renegades was a masterstroke move by moving Chris Lynn to the top of the order. You know, he'd been batting 3. Sometimes he comes in 1 down and it's like, oh, how do I go? Do I need to just resurrect the innings a little bit? Do I go hard from the start? He's got a little bit of doubt in his mind. Get him up the top, say, right, a couple of good matchups for you there. Go for it. And that just frees him up mentally and tactically, and we saw what could happen. You know, he was unbelievable the other night, and you could just see he was just playing with confidence again. He wasn't thinking too much. No situation of the game. Just go out there and play freely. Finn Allen probably had to go back the other way a little bit. He just needed to take a little bit of time, give himself a chance to get in, get used to the conditions, which is always a challenge for overseas players. To come to Australia, quite often they need a little bit of time to get used to the Aussie conditions, and then we sort of see the best out of them. So exciting for the Scorchers from his point of view as well.
So from a point of view of Chris Lynn, for those that are watching at home who think, oh, he just goes out and tees off and tries to hit every ball for 6, there is a little bit more strategy to it about picking a particular bowler, you know, I guess doing the research on where the ball is going to be bowled, and that's not just based on where the field is set, but what the bowlers genuinely do. There's a lot of thought or much more thought put into it than just going out there and swinging.
Without doubt. You know, he's an experienced player. I had a quick chat to him after the game, and he just said the reason behind the move of him to go to opening was that they had a couple of good matchups for him. I think he sort of eyed off Fergus O'Neill. He knew where he was going to bowl to him. They've obviously played against each other a few times, and they know what the opposition are going to come at with him. And so it was an opportunity for them to get ahead of the game. And so, I thought it was a brilliant move from the Adelaide Strikers. I wouldn't be surprised if he stays at the top of the order for a game or 2, but he might then drop back down if the matchups aren't as sort of suitable moving forward.
Because it's a delicate one, because Darcy Short getting pushed up the order has helped him find some form as well at the start of the start of the season. Obviously, it's happening because Matt Short's not there, but Jake Weatherall got injured as well. It's just they've got options, which is probably a good thing.
Yeah, well, that's going to be interesting to see what they do moving forward because, Matt Short's obviously going to come straight back into the top of the order. So does Darcy Short move down? Does Chris Lynn stay there? Does Weatherall? It's a bit of a balancing act. So, but as you say, better to have plenty of options rather than no options.
I can't imagine how it would be easy for Tim Payne watching that at the top because it's such high risk with what Chris Lynn does because, one false move, one bit of bad luck gone. But the fact that he's able to be out there for 10 overs and the game moves forward at such a rapid rate, it would be tough coaching.
Yeah, I think because he's got so much experience, Chris Lynn, I think, like you alluded to, there's a bit more thinking to it than just going out there and swinging.
Yeah.
I feel as though he still plays high percentage shots, but when he is going hard, it's not just wild slogging. Like, okay, for example, I watched Sam Constas bat in a test match and I feel like he's being a lot more reckless than a Chris Lynn is at the start of a T20 game. I feel like there's a bit more method to the way he goes about it, whereas Constas is just literally trying to put the bowler off his line and length. And to be fair, it's been working so far. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying it's going to work all the time, but it has worked on occasion. So Chris Lynn's got so much experience. He knows he'll have different areas on the ground where he thinks he can hit a 4 or a 6 against a particular bowler. Yeah. And as soon as that ball's in that area, he will not doubt himself. He will not hold back. He will go hard for it. So I think as a coach watching him, I'd be relatively comfortable.
Okay.
Yeah, because he's got so much experience. He knows what he's doing.
Do you watch the way the guys hit the ball now and are you in awe of what you see or is that just the fan that's watching? Because being at Marvel Stadium, as it was the other night, to see how hard they hit the ball is a sight to behold.
It's incredible. And funny enough, I was asked that question, if I was starting my career now, would I have go about it any differently? And I think that power hitting side of things is something that they work on it all the time now, and it's something you'd have to bring into your game. I know there's all the scoops and the reverse sweeps and the touch shots and things like that, but the power hitting is just incredible these days. Even if you go to a net session, I mean, I think back to when I was having net sessions, it was a lot quieter. There was a lot of defending. There was a lot of balls getting let go through to the back of the net. And now it's just like, every ball it sounds like rockets going off, So the power hitting these days is out of this world.
Yeah, it is. There's no doubt about that. All right, let's get to the third power play. So this is with your captain coach hat on. How do you stop the batter that's on the roll? So we've talked about what Chris Lynn's been able to do and the strategy that's behind that and whether it's Josh Brown, Finn Allen, etc. But from a bowling point of view, How do you change it? Even from a captaincy point of view, how do you change that?
Well, there's a number of different ways of looking at this, and you've got to have a look at the resources at your disposal. So what bowling you've got and what the conditions are like, and then you've got to make a decision on which way you want to go. So there's one way you can go. You can go, okay, we're going to fight fire with fire. So if there's a team with serious pace, you might say, right, go on then, Chris Lynn. You want to go hard, we're going to go harder. You can try and get you out. Maybe set slightly more attacking fields and try and go hard back at him and get him out. Because obviously if he's out, he's not going to hurt you on the field. Or you can go the other way, depending again on what the conditions are like and what resources are at your disposal, and try and get him off strike. Now that is tough as well, but if you can give him a single and get the other guy down the other end, and then you can try and swarm the other guy and keep him on strike for as long as possible, as many balls as possible, which then in turn will hopefully build pressure up on Chris Lynn, who's standing at the non-strikers end thinking, I want to get back on strike, I want to smash one out of the middle. So it's probably horses for courses a little bit, depending. So if I'm a Hobart Hurricanes, for example, you've got Riley Meredith, you've got Billy Stanlake, you might be tempted to have a good crack at him and say, right, let's go hard at Chris Lynn, try and get him out. If it didn't work, I guess you could go back to your defensive options like a Chris Jordan or a Nathan Ellis and almost go death bowling to him. Yeah. Try and give him a single, get him off strike, and then have a crack at the other guy.
Yeah, and we were talking about this on the last episode around your defensive options, which is essentially your bowling and your fielding, and then your attacking options, which is your batting. And if you've got that ability in a bowling attack where you've got both, it's such an advantage. And that's why we keep going back to the Hurricanes of having that variety in attack where they've actually got both.
Yeah, that's right. And look, I should have mentioned spin there as well. I mean, sometimes spin is used early to someone like a Chris Lynn to try, one, get him out, but you might be able to just keep him quiet for a little while as well. Yeah. So there's a lot of tactics that go into it. But a balanced attack that caters for all different conditions and all different opposition is obviously ideal.
You've played and coached around the world. Do you like that idea of having the 4 overs for the power play and then having the surge later? Because it's not traditional in the sense of having that normal 6 like you'd have for the IPL or international T20 cricket, but the way a game can swing on 2 overs later on?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I love the power surge. I absolutely love that initiative. I think it's fantastic. You see so many games change quickly, either way, where the teams are struggling and then they get the momentum going or they lose wickets and they start to struggle. But I feel as though the 4 overs is just a bit short for my liking. I mean, traditionally, the first 2 overs, you're facing the best bowlers. The ball's new. It can move around a bit. You still want to be positive as a batter, but it's not that easy just to stand there and hit the ball out of the park. It's normally overs 3, 4 and 5, possibly 6, where you start to see some really aggressive play with the bat. So we're sort of losing a little bit of that, but I guess we're trying to gain it back at the other end with the power surge. So I'm a bit torn, really. I love the power surge, but I kind of like the power play to be extended. Maybe one more over.
5 and a 2.
5 and a 2, maybe. I don't know.
I think that because I tend to agree with you, and because I look at it particularly when we're playing at NG Stadium, at Marvel Stadium, Geelong. There's probably a couple of other examples as well where a new wicket, it's really hard to bat early with that new ball. Yeah. It gets easier, but you kind of feel like it's such a disadvantage if you're batting first. When, as you said, you've only got 4 overs to go hard. Yeah. And the batters are going, oh, I want to go hard, but I also don't want to get out and be 3 for 10.
That's right. And I know the administrators will be looking at what's best for the game here. What's the best look for the game?
Yeah.
And teams are trying to, if they're trying to be aggressive, there are a chance to be 3 or 4 down really early, and it's not a great look for the game. But in the same breath, they want to see 4s and 6s. And are we sort of, by only having a 4 over power play, are we seeing less 4s and 6s early in that sort of a game as well? So it is a bit of a balancing act. That's why I kind of like to see the power play just extended, even if it's just 1 more over, but keep the power surge.
Jake Fraser-McGurk's a classic example of that. There's so many younger people particularly that want to see him play. But he's only got 4 overs at the start. And we've seen what he's been able to do in the IPL on flat wickets where it's 6 overs. His importance in the game is extended a little bit when there is that 6 versus the 4.
Without doubt. And from a coaching perspective, it'd be nice to go to Jake Fraser-McGurk and say, or work with him. And this is an area he can maybe improve his game. Because at the moment, he's got to come out and just basically go from ball 1. High risk. And unfortunately, he's got out a few times doing it. But if it's a 6 over power play, he can still play aggressively, but he could almost use that first 2 overs to get in as such, get used to the conditions. Yeah. Hopefully the ball will stop moving a little bit, and then look out. From overs 3 to 6, it could be so good to watch. The fans will come flooding in to see that, and it'll be good for his game as well moving forward.
Well, you've got Alistair Dobson thinking maybe we go to 21 overs each or 22 overs each so we can have the 6 and 2 or the 5 and 2. Who knows? But I'm with you. I love the surge. I think it's really important that stays. I think it creates that point of difference, and it just makes the game so much more interesting. But the 4 overs, I wouldn't mind it being a couple more as well. All right, the finals race from here. We talked about this a little bit, and since we've last met, there's been games washed out through rain, close finishes, toss of the coin being important as well. Has it changed much? Do you still feel it's the same ones near the top, or have you got some different views?
Well, I think it's changing all the time. I mean, the Sixers look a very well-oiled machine, as always. They've got most of their bases covered. I know they'll be disappointed not to get on the other night up at Coffs Harbour with the rain, and get moving again after a loss against the Hurricanes. But so they look good, and I'd say they're a good chance to make the finals. I like the look of the Hurricanes, if I'm being honest. I think they've got a very good bowling lineup, and I think they've got some dangerous batters in there as well, especially with Matthew Wade coming back in after his injury. I like the look of them. And then, look, the Thunder, they're going to get so much belief out of that win away from home. Sometimes when you win away from home, it just brings the group tighter again. I think having David Warner leading the way he's leading is massive for the Thunder. So there'll be some belief there for them. I'm not sure how long Lockie Ferguson's around for. I think he might miss the last few games, which is a big loss, having that spearhead there. So they'll need to find a good replacement for him if they can. So I like the look of those three. And then, I mean, you can't discount the Scorchers. They're always got to be up there as well. Do
you feel the Scorchers, it feels to me that they're no longer bulletproof, that there's just been a few occasions now this year where it's a bad decision here or there, it's a bad over here or there. The same bowlers that have been so good for them for so long are having a few, poor games. It doesn't feel like they're the same team they were. Is that being unfair or?
Maybe. I think it's more they've been so stable for so long, and there's just been a few moving parts in their team at the moment. So Aaron Hardy missed the start of the tournament with injury. He's come back in. He's still trying to find his feet a little bit. They've lost Josh Inglis to the Australian selection. Players coming in and out. Will Mitch Marsh now come back into the team. So they haven't been able to just get like their sort of set playing 11 and then just sort of build their continuity and build their confidence and everyone knowing their roles. It's just sort of been a bit chop and change at the moment. And so I still think they're just trying to find their sort of best combination at the moment. But I would be very reluctant to write them off. Don't worry about that. But what I would say about the finals as well is that quite often we see a team come from the clouds.
Yep.
Like we saw it a few years ago with the Brisbane Heat. They were down the bottom, had to win every game, almost nothing to lose, came all the way through and made the final one year. Then we saw it with Adelaide Strikers a bit last year. They were on the brink, had to win pretty much every game. They get through and get on a run, almost nothing to lose, win a final in Perth, and unfortunately got knocked out last year by the Heat. But so the teams that are down below, I wouldn't be giving up on one of them. Normally one of them gets into that frame of mind where, we've got nothing to lose. The pressure goes off. Let's just go out and play and enjoy it, and you get on a bit of a roll.
And that's why streaks happen. It's as simple as that. You think that from a carefree attitude, I'll never forget Stephen Fleming talking about trying to take away that whole fear of failure. And if you get out, it doesn't matter, which is so much against what cricket is usually about. But trying to get rid of that ramification for a performance that if you've got nothing to lose, well, that's when you can become dangerous.
Some of the greatest performances sometimes happen when basically you almost give up. You think, well, you know what, stuff it. We're not going to win this game. I've felt this in a game of cricket where we needed like 50 off 3 overs in a World Cup semi-final against Pakistan in the West Indies, and I gave up. I said, well, we're not going to win. I'll just have a swing. Let's see what happens. I think Cameron White had taken his gear off and he'd already thrown it in the bin. And it was just sometimes you just take the result out of it. You're not thinking about the end result. You take all the pressure off yourself. Let's just see what happens. Like, we're not going to win. And then suddenly things just start to happen for you. And that's what happens in teams when, I know, it'd be great to be able to recreate that when everything's on the line, but it's a very difficult thing to do because you've got pride in your own performance and you want to play well for your fans and the result is important to everyone else. But from a psychology point of view, if you can just let all of that go, quite often that's when you can play your best cricket.
Interesting. All right, make sure that you have that Big Bash app downloaded. That's the most important thing, to catch up on all the highlights. Plenty of people would have been logging in to watch how that end of the Scorchers Thunder game finished last night because of the fact that it's finished so late. So that's what you've got to do. You've got to download the app. You get all the news, all the information, and everything is at your fingertips in one place on the Big Bash app. We'll be back with more after this, including Huss is going to look at some of the younger players coming through. Who are some of the stars of the competition, the rising stars of the competition? You're listening to The Surge. Welcome back to The Surge with Adam White and Mike Hussey. Now, we're going to look at the players, Huss, that are 25 and under that are making a real impact on the competition at the moment. So you need your glasses to go through the list. So I'm going to give you a sort of a suite of players that are all in the category, and you can sort of nominate a few that are coming through. So 25 and under, that includes Will Sutherland, Cam Green, Aaron Hardy, some good all-rounders there, Lloyd Pope, Nathan McSweeney, and then into the younger players, Cooper Connolly, Jake Fraser-McGurk, Sam Constas, Ollie Davies, Fergus O'Neill, Mitch Owen, Todd Murphy, and I've thrown in Tanvir Sanger as well. So it's a good collection there. Yeah. There are a few that sort of stand out for you.
So some great talent there. Are you talking about making a big impact in the Big Bash or in Australian cricket in general?
Yeah, I think at the moment it's players that can really make a big impact now on the BBL competition, with an eye also to the future as well. I mean, Sam Constas is certainly making a bit of a splash based on what we've seen even just earlier in the BBL this summer. But yeah.
Well, it's just that Cam Green stands out in that group as well. But he's already, taken the step into Test cricket. He's going to be out of this season, so he's not going to have an impact on the Big Bash, but what a player, and what a player for the future for Australia that he's going to be. So he's one that stands out straight away. I like Nathan McSweeney as well. I really felt for him throughout the Test series. Difficult task for him. He's been asked to open the batting in his first Test series against India on wickets that are doing a bit. He's never opened before in his life. I just worried that we were setting him up for failure. But I think looking at him and even talking to him, he's got the temperament and a well-organised game to be successful at the highest level. So I hope he gets another opportunity. I'm sure he will, and I hope they give it to him in his preferred position, sort of more in the middle order somewhere, because I think he could be a real player of the future.
So just on McSweeney, when he came back and played that game off the back of being dropped and the devastation losing that spot in the team, and he talked about how devastated he was. The fact that he fought, this isn't about, he should have still been in the Test team because look how well he was playing, but the character that he showed to sort of stand up, lots of people watching on television to see how he would respond and do what he did. Does that make it even a bigger tick for him and his character?
Without doubt, in my eyes. And that's what a lot of people, selectors, coaches in the Australian setup would have been watching for. How's he going to react to this disappointment? And you know what? He just got on with it. He was straight up to Brisbane, straight in the nets, and then performed brilliantly in that game. And I mean, it would have been a difficult day for him because he would have loved to have been down in Melbourne preparing for a Boxing Day test, childhood dream. Instead, he's got to get up again, get positive, get around the group, and try and put in a performance for the Heat. So it speaks volumes of his character, and that's why another reason why I think that he will be part of this Australian setup moving forward.
All right, Nathan McSweeney is your first one. This is no order, by the way.
No order.
No power rankings here, just players that you've identified.
Yeah, I like the look of Will Sutherland. I mean, he's a developing all-rounder. Again, I mean, I like to look at skills of players, and he's a skilled player. He looks like a great guy to have in the team. Like, he's just 100% man. He looks like he can bat. He's obviously a pretty handy bowler as well. But I like looking at the character side of things and being given the leadership, captain of the Renegades. He's still pretty young. What is he, 25 years of age? To be leading that team, it's a big ask, but I think that speaks volumes about his character and the person he is and how much he must be respected and loved in that environment to be able to have the confidence to give him the leadership. And that's going to help him develop as a person and as a player moving forward in his career. So I think he's got a big future in Australian cricket as well.
Yeah, so someone that is captaining his state at Shield level and now one day Cup level as well, Dean Jones Trophy level, we've got to start remembering to call it that now.
Yeah.
But he's someone that seems to improve his performance with leadership. Now, there's quite a few that will go the other way, that it sort of weighs them down. He seems to take it to a whole new level. And the other thing that stands out from a leadership point of view is how much he cares. Cares for his teammates, but cares for the result. And we were talking before about David Warner and the impact he has on the Thunder in that case. I think it's a bit the same with Sutherland.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And you speak to any of his teammates, they love, they call him the big chief or whatever.
Yeah.
They love the Chiefs, you know. So, I mean, he will improve as a leader as well. Like we shouldn't forget, he's only 25 years of age. David Warner's nearly 40.
Yeah.
He's got so much more experience in that leadership space, but he's got good people around him as well. Cam White, I'm sure, will be a really good influence as he went through something similar with Victoria coming in as a young captain as well. So he's got some good people around him, but he's definitely not the finished article yet, and that's exciting for me because I think he's going to get so much better.
So he's been battling injury now for 2 or 3 years. It's been a back issue. The last 2, he's had a side problem that saw him miss quite a few Shield games before the BBL. As a finished product as a cricketer, do you see him being someone that will be capable of batting top 6, say even in first-class cricket, or is he someone that's always going to be a bowling all-rounder to you?
My sense is at the moment, now I'm not sure, but my sense is at the moment he's going to be more of a bowling all-rounder coming in. He could, I don't know, I'm sure he could develop his batting. Look what happened with Cam Green.
Mm-hmm.
He got picked for Western Australia as a bowler first and had good results as a bowler. Back injury, was out of the game for 2 years. Gave him an opportunity just to go away and just work on his batting, and has come back as someone that can bat in the top 6 for Australia with the bat, and obviously be very helpful with the ball as well. I mean, I'm not saying we want Sutherland to have 2 years out of the game, but I want him to keep working really hard on his batting, because if you've got a player that can bat in the top 6 and be one of the best 6 batters in the country and also one of your top 4 bowlers, then you've got 2 players, and those players are like gold dust. So, hopefully he keeps working on. At the moment, I see him more as a bowling all-rounder, but his batting is certainly pretty sound.
All right, so we've got Will Sutherland and we've got Nathan McSweeney. Have you got 1 or 2 others?
Well, Cooper Connolly stands out as well. He's been brilliant so far in the Big Bash. Again, I'll reiterate, obviously there's the talent there, and you can see the shots he plays and things like that. But the temperament and the character is what's standing out to me again. He's been in some pressure situations and he's handled. They've moved him around the order a little bit, got an opportunity to bat 3. Aaron Hardy comes back, he drops to 4. A couple of times he's come out after 2 balls and he's basically opening the batting, and he's handled every situation calmly and quite skillfully, really. And the one innings that stands out the most to me was the one at Marvel Stadium.
Yeah.
Where, young players, they come in, and if they fall behind the run rate a little bit, generally the panic sets in.
Yeah.
And I felt that even as an experienced player, and you think, I'm only 10 runs off 20 balls, I've got to get going here, and you play a silly shot. He didn't seem to panic at all. He just kept playing, maybe he had a little bit of luck along the way, but you're going to need, but then ended up scoring 60-odd and gave the Scorchers a chance to win that match. So temperament, character, composure under pressure, those are the sort of things that I'm seeing with him, which is so exciting for Australian cricket.
He just keeps raising the bar. This is the thing. Every time we talk about him, he goes and does it again, even against the Thunder. Okay, the Scorchers didn't get the win, but his ability under a record crowd, big time moment, and he just stands up again. And I feel that we keep stressing the fact that 20-over cricket's so different to Test cricket, but if you are shining in the big moments when the pressure is the most, that has to be a big tick for what is possible into the future.
Without doubt. Definitely. I know the different formats of the game and skill is different, and you got to use different skills, etc. But the pressure situations is what you look for. And if they can handle that, then okay, well, we'll put that in the memory bank, and suddenly get into a test match, pressure situation, okay, he's been there before. And that's why quite often you see experienced players do well in T20 cricket, because they've been in all those pressure situations before. Sometimes, quite often, you see young players panic because they haven't actually been there before and experienced it. He's showing experience beyond his years by doing it as a young player.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. All right, well, maybe one more, a bowler. I mean, our list, I've got to say, it's mainly batters and all-rounders, but from a bowling point of view, is there one that has pricked your interest a little bit?
Yeah, unfortunately, he's injured at the moment. I like Tanveer Sangha.
Yeah.
I think he's a massive loss for the Thunder, and if they don't go through and maybe win the title, he might be the reason why. Losing him wicket taker through the middle overs. He's got an air of confidence about himself as well, a real belief in his own ability. He has already played for Australia.
Yep, he has.
So he's obviously been identified as someone with enormous talent. Again, I see the skill. I mean, and he lands them, and he's competitive. He's in the contest, but again, he's got that confidence, that air of confidence, that belief that he knows he's good enough at this level. And so I hope, and I think he's going to be a real player of the future as well.
All right, so there's a couple of names to keep an eye on, not only this season, but also into the future with some of our 25 and unders. Now, we're going to do yes, no, wait now, which we haven't done with you, and I've got to admit we haven't done it too much through the BBL season. In the WBBL season, we did it all the time, and the girls just kept sitting on the fence. So we don't really want you doing that. So
Okay.
it's yes, no, wait. So it's pretty obvious. You either agree with the comment, you don't agree with the comment, or you're going to sit on the fence, which is a wait. Sydney Thunder's victory against the Perth Scorchers at the Furnace is the best away win in BBL history.
Best away win in BBL history.
Yes. So
Well-
they lose two players. I've never seen a double concussion substitution situation away from home. The Scorchers set a fairly big target. Dave, you got a few, but 49, that's more than a few, but it wasn't just him, but they got the win.
Well, and you talk to a lot of players and they say it's the hardest place to go to win with the crowd and unique conditions with the extra pace and bounce. It's a great win, and it might be the greatest win in their history, but I'm not saying it's the best away win of all time. I mean, I like to look at championship winning wins. So you think last year the Brisbane Heat went to the SCG, beat the Sydney Sixers on their home patch. That's a great win, to win a title away from home, especially against the Sixers at the SCG, who don't lose very often there. And I reckon there was a Thunder team that might have knocked off the Melbourne Stars in a final at the MCG. That sort of springs to mind as well.
Do you ever bring that up with your brother, or is that around Christmas time we just sort of keep that to the side?
No, I don't bring it up very often. And if I did, I'm pretty sure I get a little right hand hook coming across the table, I reckon. He knows. That doesn't really matter.
I'll never forget that night. I remember being out there in the middle for the toss of the coin. I've never seen two more nervous, uncomfortable individuals at a bat flip or a toss of the coin. I've never seen anything like it that night.
Well, I think it went to another level of nerves when Dave came on to bowl. When I was out there in the middle batting, I was thinking, it's a final. We need about 8 or 9 and over, and I do not want to get out to this guy. So it was a good tactical move from Dave to bring himself on. In fact, I think he got Khawaja out that night as well.
Unfortunately for Stars fans, that happened far too late. It was when pretty much single-handedly won you the game. All right, Waka Salamakil. That's a hard word to say. He's set to be the new cult figure in the BBL. And if he does, I'm going to have to learn to say his name better than that.
New cult figure. Ooh, I'm not going to agree with that one either. I mean, I love him. I think he's great. And I love the way he bounds in, like a little kangaroo down there. And he's got some skill. But no, I think there's probably others out there. I think, someone like Lloyd Pope, the strikers, he's getting a bit of cult hero, sort of following. I think Finn Allen's now starting to fire and the crowd are starting to like the way he sort of plays. So there's a few others out there, but I do love him. But I'm going to say no to that one too.
No. All right. We talked a little bit about Chris Lynn and what he did against the Renegades, 88 off 51 balls, and you sort of said, this has to be a permanent move. Yes.
No. I don't think it's permanent, but I like the move. But in the right situations against the right teams, if you've got the right matchup, then I'd be pretty keen to get him out there. So no, I'm not going to say definitely.
What do we say there? Wait or no?
Wait.
Okay. Now, I like this one here, and I must confess this is one of my ones. Xavier Bartlett is the best bowler in the BBL.
Oh, best bowler in the BBL.
Maybe we should put a caveat, particularly when he's bowling at the Gabba.
Yeah, well, that's probably a yes. I mean, there's a few good ones out there. I like Ben Dorcius as well, but I've picked Xavier Bartlett to be my BBL MVP this year. So I'm going to double down on that, and I'm going to go yes. I'll call yes. He is the best bowler in the comp. I like him because he can swing the new ball and get wickets up front in the power play, which we know are so important. But he's also very skillful at the death, decent slower ball. He just missed against the Scorchers. He had a bit of an off night there at the back end, but yeah, I'll back that one in. I'll say yeah, why not?
Do you think he's got the ability to play regularly for Australia? We saw him play against the West Indies last summer in white ball. I saw him at the MCG. just ripped through Victoria in a Shield game. And again, even if the ball wasn't you, and certainly when it was red, he was still able to get the ball to move around at good pace. He just feels like he's the next generation of Australian fast bowler.
I hope so. I mean, what does he bowl? About mid-130s?
Yeah,
I'd
yeah.
like the pace just to go up a touch more for Test cricket.
Yep.
I mean, he's got the skills. Not saying he can't be successful at Test cricket bowling at mid-130s. He can. And he's skillful enough. So I think he can. I'd just love to see him push up towards 140. That would make me really excited.
He's got that sort of bustling approach, big, strong guy that you think could certainly push into the 140s.
Good competitor.
Yeah,
Good competitor as well.
Definitely.
So I like him. He never gives up, even when they looked like they were going to lose the game against the Stars the other night. He came back on, picked up a couple more wickets, just kept trying to win for his team. So I love the way he goes about it, yeah.
Thank you so much for the last 2 episodes. It's been great to have you
Enjoyed it.
into
Thank
our
you.
little home doing the Surge for us. And we're getting to the second half of the season now, and it feels like everything's sort of magnifying every moment, as we certainly saw over the last few nights. So thanks for being part of it.
Thanks for having me on. Really enjoy it. And looking forward to the back half of the Big Bash. The crowds have been sensational. The cricket's been good. So let's hope it continues.
We might even get to see some Australian players in the next week or so as well. So, it's certainly ramping up. That is it for The Surge for this week. Hope you've enjoyed the episode, and we'll catch you again very soon.